Welcome to Secrets from the Saddle podcast. I'm Sylvie, your host, fellow cyclist, bike club founder, cycling coach, bike race junkie, just truly super passionate about cycling. My journey with cycling started 20 years ago when I opened a spin studio, started a women's race team, and founded a women's only cycling club called Cycle Fit Chicks. I'm super thrilled to reveal all aspects that make the world of cycling operate. I'm so excited to be able to bring you interesting people from around the world, pro cyclists, recreational cyclists, coaches, event organizers, bike shop owners, everything and everyone you need to know or ever wondered about when it comes to cycling. I know you'll enjoy this episode. Have you recently got into cycling and wondering, what should I eat while I'm out for a ride to sustain energy? Or are you a seasoned cyclist and would love to get away from all the sugary snacks that are on the market? Well, I have you covered. I've been looking for better whole food alternatives for cycling snacks to bring with me on short and long rides. I've been researching and trying different recipes, especially for the best, yummiest, and easiest snacks you can create at home. Download my first edition of Cycling Snacks today at www.askcoachsylvie.ca. Tested and kid approved. Now enjoy the episode. All right, everyone, welcome back for another episode of Secrets from the Saddle, all things cycling podcast with your host, Sylvie. And we have an amazing gentleman coming to us from Toronto. So Pete Lilly, he has a bike shop. If you have encountered Sweet Pete's Bike Shop, and I believe he's in 3 locations across the greater GTA. So Pete is going to share with us how he fell into starting his bike shop and everything that we were just discussing about how long he's had the bike shop and his whole, history with bikes over the last 25 years, if you think of the evolution of bikes, right? So welcome, Pete, to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks so much for inviting me, Sylvie. It's my pleasure.
Oh my God. So my first question and only question is, let's hear about how you got into cycling and how it led you to start your bike shop. Back 13 years. Well, you're 13 years old.
Yeah. It, like I said, this past November, I turned 50, and then a couple months later, I celebrated my 25th anniversary in the bike shop. And the math was so simple to put in, 25 into 50. I was like, I have spent half my life professionally in the bike industry, and so it was sort of a milestone marker, and it just. I had to sort of sit back. It's wintertime. You've got time to think about things in the bike world. And so I just running through my head, going back and thinking about the evolution of bikes and where we've come, and I don't know where we're going. I don't know where the technology is going to take us, but it really is unbelievable. So yeah, I mean, I think I was 25, just finished university, and my whole childhood, I was a Canadian kid. I loved to play hockey, but I always had a fascination with bikes. Going back to when I was a little kid in BC, I dreamt of having a BMX bike. I had one, built jumps, used to rip around with my friends, go fishing. It was really sort of Andy from Mayberry kind of thing. It was really, when I think about it, how oddball it is, but and then into my teens, I started to get into road bikes. They were, started to become a thing, the original Cannondale aluminum bikes and, Vitus and all these crazy bikes, and Greg LeMond winning Tour de France's. All of a sudden, Tour de France was on TV. So I got into road riding and road racing. And I'd be kidding if I ever said, and even to this day, there's no real path to retail now, maybe business school, but I'd be kidding if I said that I ever considered the bike industry as something that I'd be doing when I was 50. So, it's sort of still strange to think about it. And when I think about, at 50, financial guys are like, yeah, talk about your succession plan. What are you going to do? Are your kids going to take over? I don't know. But So
Are your
you're
kids
right.
as fascinated as you?
They love to ride for sure. It's a big thing in our family.
Mm.
We all love to ride bikes, but it was but the business of bikes
Mm.
is something altogether different.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that they'll follow my path into it. I don't know if they'll do it as well, but but I like you said, I really sort of fell into it. It wasn't just a blind fall, but it was certainly something that kind of appeared, and then I chased it and looked at it a little deeper, and then jumped in. And there's never been a day that I've sort of looked back and said, "Man, that was a waste," because I love it every single day.
Ah,
There's occasionally you get somebody who their bike got ripped off and they're upset that they're having to come back and buy another one, but for the most part you're dealing with people coming in and wanting to get their bike fixed, or they're prepping for a big race, or they're buying power bars for their weekend ride, or you know looking at the new suspension or the new aero, this or that. And it's people are in a good mood, and so it's hard to be upset when you're coming when you're coming into that work environment every day. So I love
yeah.
it.
I know. I know. 25 years is you think about it's a long time because I think about 14 years. Well, I've been in the cycling business, cycling club, everything since for 20 years. And I'm just like, wow, my God, how the years just fly by. I have my women's cycling club 14 years. It's just like, wow. What's the next 10 years gonna is it just gonna be a lot of the same but yeah, like I'm not in the cycling business, but I've certainly seen the evolution of bikes within our club, how it's evolved and how we're, like the changes and transitions as to what the bikes are looking like these days. And I'm like,
We,
as a cycling club, people are like, oh my God, do I need to have this type of bike? And I'm like, no, you don't need to spend $10,000 on your bike. It's okay. But
when you
when
think
you,
about it now, I mean, all of these bikes now, 20 years ago, the height of aerodynamics was the teardrop helmet and a disc wheel. And and there was no wind testing. There was nothing like that happening. It was just, and even the smaller front wheel, that was as good as we could make it. And now you're really lagging if you're a company that's not using wind tunnel testing. And, so we've gone to the point of F1 cars and aerospace and the materials that we're using. It's just, it's crazy how much things have evolved. But
it's funny though, because the average person doesn't really care about all that stuff. Do you know what I mean? They just want a reasonable priced bike that they can ride and have fun on. And those are
100%.
the type of people that are buying. Like wind tunnel testing, I don't know. I don't care. Like I just want to go riding with my friends, and I don't want to like have to take a second mortgage out on the house to buy the bike and or buy multiple bikes or you know what I mean? I guess if you're looking at the higher end stuff now, is that something that you consider when you're buying your bikes? Like when you mentioned that?
For my bike personally,
No,
or
like
when we're
the
buying
the
for the
the
store.
yeah, buying for the store. Like what kind of clients coming into your store?
Um, we do a little bit of everything. So I mean,
Mm.
I've got, we've got kids bikes, all the way from the little run bikes, going all the way up to, $20,000, mountain bikes.
Oh,
So
email bikes. Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, they're one step below a motorcycle now. And so, and the mechanical ability that's required to work on one is, equivalent to what you'd find at your car garage. It's crazy. Yeah, the
Oh, I
evolution of
guess
that.
so, eh?
But yeah, I mean, it's becoming so specialized that there are custom bike manufacturers, custom shoe manufacturers, custom everything. You can get everything done custom. So we do stock some high-end equipment. We're not, there are some stores in Toronto, especially that are specific triathlon stores. And so we
Mm.
don't dabble too much in that because it's it's a pretty deep rabbit hole if you want to go down that
Yeah.
in that direction. And so, and there's only so much sort of money to spend, and the specialty guys are really good at it. So we
Mhm.
sort of, let the specialty guys take care of it. But we certainly have access to it through the brands that we carry, and it's pretty nice to be able to do, we have fitting equipment in the store that we can, if somebody comes in and says they want something specific, we can we can do a proper fit, and then bring that bike in for a person and know that it's not as simple as 20 years ago when you just throw your leg over it and like, okay, this is the right bike for you. So it's, it's, it's high tech now.
Wow. So I just want to go back. When you started your store, did you buy a store or did you start it from scratch?
So it was an existing store.
Okay.
Yeah, it was there was a chain of stores nationwide called Cycle Path, and there's still a few
Oh,
stores in
I think
existence,
there's
but
one in Ottawa.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, and so at one point they were all the way from Halifax to Vancouver, but not long into my psychopath phase, the bank called the note on the head office, and so the chain sort of broke up because there was no centralized buying anymore. So all stores became independent, and we eventually changed our name. So
Hmm.
um, it
You
was
kind of
tricky.
rebranded. You rebranded.
Yeah, it was funny, Sylvie. At the time, we were the oldest store. So if somebody wanted to call what they were expecting to find the head office because they were unhappy with something, they would get my number. And
Oh
so
no.
I heard all the complaints. And so I was like, okay, there's nobody to control this. There's no quality control. And so I can't, you know, I eventually was like, I just need to step away from the group and be responsible for my own,
Mhm.
protecting my own good name. And so I'm still good friends with a lot of the Cyclepass stores, and the ones that are still in existence are there because they're good stores.
Right.
But yeah, we bought a store that was already, it had history. In fact, it was the original Cyclepass
Wow.
store. So, but yeah, starting
So
with the second store we opened was a brand new initiative. So I've seen it sort of from both sides, and that the to start it from scratch is much, much, much more difficult. Um, it's such a challenge. You don't understand how valuable it is to have people coming in the door that know you're a bike store from day one. It's so much better, so much easier. But
wow. So you
yeah,
so you mastered the second one, then you decide to do a third one. Is that how it worked?
yeah. Foolish.
So are
I don't
they
know.
all very like they're in good places like Toronto,
Mhm.
Bloordale and Bay Avenue,
Yeah.
Bayview
So
to
Bayview
be
is in the brickworks. It's kind of a neat. It's where in the Don Valley where they used to
yeah.
actually make all the bricks for the city. So
Oh,
it was an abandoned brick factory for a long time, and then through the vision of a company called Evergreen, they came and restored it, and so it's a great place to go and hike. And then you've got access to the Don Valley mountain bike trails there. And now with some proper bike lanes, it's a good place to start a road ride as well. So it's a beautiful spot. When you're down in the Don Valley, you don't even know that you're in the city anymore. So it's a neat spot. Very,
I've
very
been
different.
down there once.
Very cool, huh?
Yeah, it was very cool. I I I was out cycling with a friend of mine and I didn't have my bike, so he lent me his and he was much taller than me.
Whoops.
So needless to say, it was really nice down there, but I wasn't having a good time on this extra large bike that I was practically killing myself. I'm just like, okay, I want to go home now. But it is like it does have its own little feel like you're in the middle of the city, but you have no idea. Like it's just, yeah, it's a nice
Absolutely.
little place to go riding.
Yeah.
But I'd have to go back there with a much, more fitted bike for myself. I'd probably enjoy myself a whole lot more. But
Right.
so tell us about the last little while, how you've maneuvered yourself through COVID. I know lots of bike shops were so busy. They're
Yeah.
either making money or selling everything and then they didn't have anything to sell. And where it looked really good, then it wasn't so
Yeah,
good.
it's really an odd time. It's uh, in every industry. Obviously, everybody has their own stories. The bike industry, I'll be honest, when news of the economy shutting down showed up, um, I, I thought, well, that's the end of days. Like we'll shut
Yeah,
down. Everybody's going to shut down, and I can't imagine anybody's. All these people are going to be out of work. Who's going to want to buy a bike? And it didn't dawn on me, and I kick myself for just a complete lack of vision, but maybe being realistic about the whole thing. But it really went right away to, well, there's nothing else to do. You can go out for a walk or you can go for a bike ride. And if I can ride, I don't want to ride outdoors with other people, so I need to get a trainer. And so all of a sudden, trainer sales went crazy and people started coming in for bikes. And it started with, people that were coming in. Honestly, Sylvie, there were so many people that came in for their first bike.
I
And
know.
it's something that you could advertise for, you could prod and kick and offer tax incentives, and you could do all these things to try to get people to try to ride a bike, and they wouldn't. But this thing came along, and all of a sudden, people were showing up to buy their first bike, and so um, it was wonderful, inspiring, a whole bunch of things that were cool at the beginning. But we had a number of employees who said, I'm not interested in working. I don't want to be public facing during this thing. There were so many questions about COVID and what it was going to mean.
Yeah.
So we lost some people. We didn't have to lay anybody off. But I worked a stretch of 120 days in a row in the first year of the first
Ooh.
season of COVID, because we just didn't have enough people. All of our sales went from in store. We had an online presence already, but about 15% of our business was online and 85 was in store, and that went to 95% overnight. And so we all of a sudden had to take all these people that were used to selling bikes in store and make them boxers and packers and receivers, and it became very impersonal, just handing things off to people in masks.
Right.
And people got angry in the first few weeks. There were people that were like, okay, we're all going to get through this. We're all on the same team. And then it started to get a little bit ugly, because people were like, I have to wait. I'm angry. I want to ride. I don't want to miss out. Where's my bike? Why is it taking you so long? What's your problem? And we saw both the beautiful side of people and the ugly side of people, oftentimes in the same day. 17-year-old kids working up at the front, handing bikes to people who were,
Oh.
getting cursed out by people. It really was a strange time. And it settled in a little bit. The winter came and things got a little slower, still really busy for the bike industry. But um, and now, now the industry's playing catch up, and we just can't get there. It's just,
Right.
if you want a bike now, you almost have to think about it as a consumer. You have to think about it a year out,
Yeah. Or
because
just buy whatever's on the market because,
100%.
yeah.
And
Yeah. You
it's
can't go like, I want red. No,
no,
there's blue and there's green. Pick one.
yeah.
Sorry.
And it's just like, and the prices, because of the factory prices have gone up and shipping prices have gone up. And so,
Hmm.
obviously people are seeing it in their grocery bill and in their anything else that you're buying. But
Yeah.
bikes are no haven't been able to evade that. It's just bike prices have gone up, 20%, and it's not coming from the retailer. It's coming from 12 layers above us.
Yeah.
um, and they just can't keep up. So, even now, when people are thinking, well, COVID's kind of over, like the mask mandates have been lifted, and so haven't bikes caught up? And they just haven't. There's toilet paper on the shelves, so everyone thinks that the parts shortages are done. But if you want to get an 11-speed chain now, or if you want to get an Ultegra crank, good luck. Good luck, because it
Mm,
just, I can tell you that one is coming to me next month, but it might,
maybe.
the Shimano date will kick and kick and kick and kick. And it's not that they don't want to give it to you. I want to get it to you. Shimano wants to get it to me, but it's entirely up in the air as to when it's going to show up. And so, I've had this conversation five
So
million
many
times.
times. Yeah.
And so it's difficult, but and it's hard too, because it's my nature. I mean, even at a base level, if I didn't care about any of the people that I'm serving, if all I wanted was their money, I'd speed things up, but I don't have any control over it. And all of those things are not true. I want people to be happy. I want people to keep riding their bikes, but I can't. It's just such an ugly scene right now, and so far away from being fixed too. So
Yeah. Well,
shame.
I've noticed a lot of bikes that were not used back onto the market. A lot of people bought bikes, didn't
You're
use
right.
them, or maybe didn't like them, but a lot of good bikes are coming back on the market, and they're not cheap either. Because I was looking for, of course, everybody's going gravel. So I
Yep.
was looking for a gravel bike, and I got one, but it's not in my hands yet. But but it was a small shop in Arnprior that I came across, which is crazy. I'm like, Arnprior. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, it's true, because a lot of people are looking to upgrade too, and I have noticed, like on Kijiji or Marketplace, that there's things coming out there, slightly used, bought it 2 years
For sure.
ago, never, like, it's kind of weird why people wouldn't actually use their bike, if
I
they
agree.
bought it with that intention. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, yeah.
I
So I
think
kind of want,
now what's happening now is people can go back to the gym now, or they are going on vacation. And so they're just like, well, I bought that because it was the only thing I could do, but I didn't use
right.
it that much. And now that I have other options, I can go play golf. I don't need that bike anymore. And I'd rather have the money.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah, yeah, I
we're,
think it's the money actually.
I think so too. Yeah. But
It's
we're
like
wary
I
of that. I
spent.
mean, like, how many trainers should we buy? I don't know. I mean, how many of those trainers, the market was so crazy there for 2 winters, and then even into the spring and summer, people are like, I don't want to ride outside. I'll ride in my house where I won't get COVID. And so
Yeah.
there's so many trainers out there that
Mm.
are people. Is everyone who bought one hooked on it now? Are they going to keep
Mm.
riding? Is everyone going to keep riding Zwift? Or are we going to get a flood of those things on Kijiji? And the truth is, when the suppliers ask us, your boots on the ground, you must have the answer. Like, I don't know. I don't know who's going to keep it. I don't know. But
Yeah, that's a good one. I think just along with the bikes is, if you didn't find yourself a community to ride with, then, or even like on Swift. I mean, Swift is great, but if you don't have people to ride with, like a group of friends to
sure,
connect and go for rides, then it's not so much fun.
no,
You know what I mean?
no,
And it's not as motivating. So I can see people kind of migrating back, even like off of it and back into the gym, or just away from their bike completely. And then there's
yeah,
the others, like the skills. How do you ride a bike properly? Oh, this is where I come in, but I can't help everybody everywhere. Um, but yeah, and it's and even like with my women's cycling club, I thought that we were able to continue going over the 2 years, but we had to plan a lot. Like, it
oh
was
yeah, yeah, yeah,
a lot of planning, like 6 people to a group. You had to pre-register, like there was a lot, but I mean, it saved a lot of us. I mean, just to get out and ride with people
yeah.
was a lifesaver,
Well, they're lucky. They were
for,
lucky. They were lucky to have somebody like you that's taking
mm-hmm.
charge in that situation, because it does take a lot of work. And to get out and do that, you're 100% right. The anxiety created by having to stay by yourself was terrible. And then to not move, like to be able to get out and ride with other people was a lifesaver. And I was able to ride with just my neighbor. And that got me through all of those days in a row where I had to work. I needed that bike ride. It's just, I was a full on junkie for that one ride every day. I needed it.
Yeah, I bet. Like, I can't even imagine being in and working that many days. But it was crazy when we heard like bike shops were essential services, and then they all just stayed open. We're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
thank God. Thank God for that.
Yep. Yeah.
So, um, So Steve, a mutual friend, connected us.
Mm,
And are you going to be participating in the Ride to Conquer Cancer with him,
I'm
or
not.
is that part
I
of your summer
Nah. It's
routine?
I have in the past. I've done it before, and we certainly, as a shop, we support the Ride to Conquer Cancer. Um, I think what it is, number one, full transparency. I'm terrible at fundraising. I stink
Uh,
at it, and I
I
really
know
don't like
I'm
doing it.
anxious about that too.
So I think the last time I did it, I just like out of the gate, I just cut a check and was like, here, I'm not asking it. I'm not doing it. Like, I'll just take the tax right off for myself and I'm in. And so, but yeah, I'm after a couple years of the racing scene not being
Mm.
I'm 50 years old, as I said, and I've had enough crashes on my mountain bike, enough crashes on my road bike. I've really gotten captivated by gravel to the point where I sold my road bike. I don't even have one anymore.
Oh.
um,
Ooh.
I love gravel riding so much that it just didn't make sense to have all of them. In fact, the bike that I had was the single best bike I've ever had. The road bike I had was the top end Trek Domane, with new Di2 Durace disc brakes, the
Mm.
lightest wheels. It was the most beautiful bike, and I loved riding it. And then I got on a gravel bike, and I forgot about it. I said, forget it. I had to get on. I had to warranty a wheel, so I got back on my road bike, and I was like, this seems like I'm riding on a razor blade. Like, it's just, I have to be so careful on it. I love my gravel bike, and so I've never looked back. But
Wow.
so I've kind of gotten into a few more gravel events. And then I got hooked on the idea of this mountain bike event. I'm not into speed anymore
Yeah,
necessarily. I
yeah.
like more endurance events.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Me too, actually.
yeah.
I'm
And
I'm
so
gravitating towards that. I'm 51, so I'm just a little bit older than you. And I got a refurbished Bianchi gravel bike. Like, it was just built up for me. Because
amazing.
there's nothing, right? And I'm like, I can't afford $4,000. So what can I get? And there's
Right.
a recycle shop, Retro Rides here in Ottawa. And so I was over there chatting with them, doing an interview. He's like, well, I might have a bike your size, a mountain bike. And I'm like, he's like, do you want me to build? I said, well, how much? He's like, $1,000. I was like, okay,
Score. Yeah. Beautiful.
sure, yeah. Every time somebody sees it, it's like, oh my God, look at that Bianchi. I'm like, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it was,
Yeah.
it's
No
like,
problem.
but
So
I feel it too, that endurance gravel thing. It's
yeah, I think
crazy.
it's just it's sort of maybe obviously I know that there are still mountain bike racers, there are still road bike racers, there are still triathletes, there are still athletes of every stripe who crave speed. But I think there's something to be said for the growth of all of these other events, in the Dirty Cans and Unbound, and these
Mm,
events that are about speed. Of course, there are guys who can blitz those things, but it's for the everyday athlete. It's more about mental toughness, and so it gives you something to chase, something to ride for, something to train for. But
mm-hmm.
if you were, I was never the fastest guy, but I like to think of myself as mentally tough, and so doing my carrot in the last 6 or 7 years has been the Leadville 100, and so uh,
Have
I
you done that?
I've done it twice, and
What?
I haven't completed it, or
Oh no.
the first time I got pulled off the course because I didn't make a time marker.
Mm-hmm.
Um, 3 years ago, I completed the 100 miles, and for anybody who doesn't know, you have to finish it in under 12 hours to get the
The
belt buckle.
buckle.
And I finished in 12 hours, 1 minute and 21 seconds.
They
So,
are very strict, I've heard.
oh yeah,
Oh my God, that must have hurt.
it,
Oh, I
I
feel for you,
was I
Pete.
was so bitter. I was so bitter, and so my wife said, "Well, you've done it. You finished it, and you were a minute short. What difference does it make?" And that's
You're like, I don't have the belt buckle. That's what
yeah.
I'm here for.
And there were friends of mine that were like, "Well, can't they just give it to you?" And I'm like, "Well, of course they can't. I knew going in it was 12 hours, not 12:01:25." it was 12. And so I need to do it. And so I
Mhm.
signed up again. I got in through the lottery a few years ago, and then obviously now hasn't happened for the last few years. So it's happening this year in August.
Mhm.
So
Are you
um,
going?
I'm going. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Okay, okay, you have to write down. I'm going to connect you with my friend Randall
Okay.
Bennett, Bike Bennett. You might have come across him. He's done it like 5 times.
Oh man.
And he's like, yeah, he's crazy. And I was like, God, that's something I want to put on my bucket list. But August is a family travel month.
Right.
So I'm like, so not this year, but because I was looking at it last January about getting myself into the lottery. And but if you go next year, oh, you have a training buddy. I'll put it
It
out
is the
there.
best. It's such a unique
Are you going to go
place
a week
in the
ahead of
world.
time though to
Yeah. Yeah.
train
We always go a week.
altitude?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to hike and to bike a little bit. And I mean, it's such a big difference. Obviously, in Quebec, you have a little bit more a little bit more variance in terrain than we do here in Ontario. So, but to get to Colorado and to see, the different color sky and the huge map, like it's so beautiful there. And even though Leadville's kind of it was a derelict mining town, but it's sort of sprung back to life because of this race series. And so,
Yeah.
um, this is the last time I'll go. I've said that
Oh.
before, but I can't. It's a challenge. Obviously, I've got the same pressures as it is a family time. August is
Hmm.
pretty nice time to be at home with the family. So I'm fortunate that my family has sort of let me go again. But it can't be a regular fixture on the calendar. But I love it so much. I love going to Colorado so much. It's just such a highlight.
Oh,
So
I've seen. I'm like, I just want the belt buckle.
same here, same here, same
Well,
here.
I'm sending you luck. I'm gonna connect you with with Randall and another woman who's going there. So I connected those two, and so I'm gonna throw you into the
Awesome.
mix
Yeah,
there. And yeah, he's amazing. He's a retired businessman. Like he's pretty cool.
man.
Uh,
Is he somebody
and
you train, Sylvie?
No,
No.
I met him. I met him on Facebook in a road cycling group. Like God, 6, 7 years ago,
Wow.
and we've just been friends, and always been in touch, and so I reached out to him to do the podcast. So I did an episode with him about that, but more about his cycling and stuff, and but he's such a nice guy. Like and he's just involved in a lot of things even though he's not in business anymore. Like he's an entrepreneur. He sold his built up his business, sold it, and now he's just like riding and doing charity stuff and
Amazing.
like yeah, like all over the United States. So he's a pretty cool guy to be connected with. um and anyways, but well, I'll send you
That's
good
cool.
luck, good vibes in August.
Thank
Because
you.
I don't know, I'm like, I don't think I should put my name in there because just in case. I have
Do
to,
it. Do
like,
it. Do it.
I
Yeah, you
know.
you, you have to go. It's such a I mean the history behind it too, with Lance having written it. And
Yeah.
it's just a cool story, and it really is sort of one of the originals too. So there are others, and so I don't know what the next one will be. Hopefully this is my year. I just need to figure out a way. I needed one
You've written it
second
three
every month.
times. You should be able
Yeah,
to, you got the whole course in your mind to go, okay,
I
where did
got
I
it.
lose that 1 minute?
I
No more
remember
quick transitions.
I was riding with a buddy, and I stopped at one point to pee. I got off my bike and he was like, "What are you doing? You don't get off your bike to pee." And I was like, "What difference does it make?" And like at the
That
end, I was
one
like
minute.
kicking
That
myself.
1 minute.
Like, oh, idiot. Anyway, this is my
I'm
year,
like,
Sylvie. I'll
this is
find
your
something.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll
So
find
you
the
got to
time.
get that training in. But my goal is Hurton and Halliburton.
I just saw that for the first time this week, and so I
Yeah.
think that might go on the schedule too.
Yeah, it's an 8 hours, so and it's 20K loop, and you do it
Yeah.
as many times as you can. And I'm bringing the family, so you can bring the family. You can
Nice.
camp there. Like the transition area where you go through is like where your tent is and everything. So
Right.
you can either stop or just go through, or stop, get more food, things like that. They're gonna have a whole village and everything. So I
Awesome.
came in sixth last
Awesome.
year,
Wow.
and now I'm gonna go with a bigger bike, a better bike, and so I can probably get in one more lap. But anyways, and I'm gonna be more trained for it. So
Knowing the
hopefully,
course. Yeah, I would
and
say.
knowing the
Yeah.
course, yeah, yeah. I went easy on it, and I stopped to chat in the last lap,
Right.
which I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna take it easy, and then I'm like, fuck, what am I doing? Sylvie, you're racing here. Anyways, but the competitive side kicked in. Um, so what do you foresee with your shop for this summer? Is it in full swing right now? All three locations, everybody's getting
Yeah.
out and getting their bikes
It's
in?
it is in my 25 years, this might be the strangest year yet. So
Really?
yeah, I think so.
The
I really do.
transition to back to normalcy?
So we were expecting that. We expected that
Oh,
that there'd be challenges. Like the analogy that I used was to get into this situation was pretty easy. It was just people walked in and bought everything down to the studs. So it was easy enough. We sold everything we had. And so now trying to restock and get back to any sort of a normal inventory where you've got good
mm.
sizing and good selection and good, a number of good models. It would be nice if you could go to the suppliers and they had everything, but they don't.
Mm.
So, now it's like,
Mm.
imagine if you went into a grocery store after everyone did their hurricane prep and it was empty, and then you went back the next day and they had pickles and cereal and pork chops. You'd be like, well, I kind of want some different things. But like, so right now we've got $800 hybrids. We've got no gravel bikes. We've got,
Mm.
I've got a couple of $10,000 road bikes, but nothing cheaper than that. I
Wow.
have no full suspension mountain bikes, but tons of kids bikes. And so, you know, and it's hard because people come in and they sort of think, like, you really butchered this. Like, why didn't you buy better stuff? Why don't you have the bike that I want? And like, listen, I know what I'm doing, but I don't have the choice right now. And so, um, and really, we've been putting everything on back order for years. And then when it becomes available, you have the option to take it. So, for example, all of these $800 hybrids, when they said they were available, we said, we'll just take as many as you can ship us, to the point where the store is full and we've had to get rental units off site because we didn't want to say no. As soon as you say no, you go to the back of the line. So if you
Right.
sell out of the ones that you have, you might not get them for another 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So how many do you take? And obviously you only have so much credit and you only have a season X amount of months long to sell it.
Yeah.
Uh, and our customers are going to like it. And with the inflated prices, are people going to be into it? Like, I don't, or how many used bikes are out there? So many variables. You're
Mm.
trying to figure it all out. And then on top of that, I'm sure you've experienced it. You read about it in the media. You go to a high-end restaurant and service is slow, and that's in a high-end restaurant where people are making, the service staff and is making a lot of money. It's a good job, and they can't find people, and
Mm.
so the labor shortage is real. And so, we've lost some people that haven't come back and we haven't been able to replace them. And so we've had to kind of go the old Montreal Expos route and start fresh and start with unproven. We're training young people how to sell bikes, and that's frustrating because we've always had a good veteran crew that
Right.
anyone, you could come in and talk to any one of
Mm.
six people who could tell you about triathlon bikes or tell you about mountain bikes or full suspension or the advantage of carbon over steel, whatever. Now we've got 15, 16, 17-year-olds who know about bikes, but they don't know, they're not
about
told.
bikes.
And so,
So where did all your good staff go? Like they're not still sitting on SIR, but I think that's gone.
no, that, you know, that's the $1 million question, because I think it's not just unique to the bike industry. I think if you ask the guy who owns, you know, the fancy restaurant down on King Street, where did your staff go? You know, because he had different staff, or, you know, any business you want, you can
Mm.
scratch your head and say, where did everyone go? And I don't know the answer to that. I
That
think,
is strange.
you know, inflation and real estate and prices have driven, I think, a lot of young people out of the city, or
Mm.
people in different segments out of the city. And so that's hurt. Um, I think a lot of people have gone back to school, taken advantage of the time and said,
Oh,
I'm going to go back and do some retraining.
yeah.
Um, because people in some industries probably didn't, you know, I could have had anybody working 150 hours a week if they wanted it. But if you were in the service industry, maybe you couldn't work at all. And so you just went back and said, instead of going back to that industry where I'm at the whim of the
Mm.
market, maybe I'll
Right.
just go back to school and do whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't
it's a
know.
good point. I think maybe a lot of people went and just had it was an opportunity to change what they
Yeah.
were doing or really sit back and see what they wanted. Move to Mexico. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know a fair
Not the
amount of
worst
people who
idea.
moved to Mexico.
Yeah. I don't
It's
know.
just-
It is so strange though. I mean, I've asked myself that question. What happened to everybody? Where did everyone go? But
did you
I
did
think in
you
the beginning,
message them? Hey, you want to come
yeah,
back? What are you doing?
some of the people who left the shop, you know, I know a few who moved out west.
Oh,
You know, a few moved to Montreal. People moved around, and so I'm sure some people from Montreal probably moved here too. But it just you know, typically every spring we get a flood of resumes for people wanting to come in and work, and this year it was all sort of young people, and so um, you know, life handed us lemons. So we're making lemonade out of it. That's all we can do. You know, we're just kind of we're lucky we still have a good
well,
core,
yeah, I
but
guess you got the opportunity to mold some kids, just like
yeah.
pretend it's you back year 13.
And the fact that we
I know your kids are a little different these days.
true enough, true enough.
So are the
I,
bikes, but
I think the fact that we're a little bit lucky in that, you know, we're not having to teach people about Di2, because frankly we don't have any Di2 bikes. And so you know, we carbon fiber gravel bikes, if I had them, I'd have to train the staff how to sell them, but we aren't getting them. So it's, you know, we're lucky that maybe we only have kids bikes and $800 hybrids, because those are pretty easy to teach people how to sell. So, you know, we're doing the best we can with what we've got. But like I said at the beginning of this rant, it's the strangest year ever, because there's nothing predictable about it. So
wow,
um
that is
yeah, I don't
strange.
know.
Huh.
Just making the best of it.
It's interesting to talk to you about that because, like, every shop, and I haven't talked to many shop owners
Mhm.
lately, um, but it's interesting to hear your take, especially in Toronto.
Mhm.
Where cycling is. I've interviewed quite a few people in the Toronto area, like advocates and, like Steve and some other individuals who are cyclists. And it's just, it's so huge. Like there's such a big advocacy group, like for cycling in there, and a lot of people getting on bikes, and it's
For sure.
surprising. Mm.
It's been
Yeah.
like, Sylvie, 25 years ago, you couldn't ride your bike on a street in Toronto. So there have been a few individuals that have come along and made such a big difference here. And
Yeah.
frankly, you know, I don't think anybody's going to look back and say that they're happy that COVID showed up, but cycling advocates, and I count myself among them, obviously I do, are somewhat grateful that the situation presented itself, because like I said
Hmm.
earlier, a lot of new people are coming into the sport or the activity for whatever reason. It's made commuting a viable choice,
Yeah.
where people would have said 5 years ago, even, that's dumb. I'll show up, I'll be sweaty, you know, my suit, what am I going to help?
Hmm.
I'm not even going to think about it. And now there are bike lanes. Bike lanes had
Yeah.
to come because of the volume of riders out there. And those bike lanes are still here. And those people who got on a bike and rode into work said, this is way better. I'm not cramming my way onto a subway. I'm not subject to
Hmm.
somebody else's schedule. And even maybe if it's a crazy rainy day or icy or snowy out, they'll take the subway. But the other 90% of the days, they can ride their bike and show up to work and be clear headed. And they've figured out a solution. Maybe their workplace has installed a shower, or they've got a way to get their suit or their work clothes into work, or they've got a locker. All of these things have come out of COVID. And so, you know, and the advocacy, just like you said, it's Cycle
Yeah.
Toronto appeared out of nowhere, and coalesced all of the different advocacy groups. It was crazy. You sit around a table with like 30 advocacy groups,
Yeah.
and everyone had a different message. And now with Cycle Toronto, you've got one, and it's good, and the city listens. And so,
That's
um,
it. The city listens because I'm
mhm.
not sure what's going here on in Ottawa.
Yeah, right.
We're,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here because it seems like it's very individual. Like everybody's kind of all over the place. They got like their own little core, and it's weird over here. I like even Montreal's different, and Toronto seems to be very inclusive, but around here it's like everybody's like for themselves in their own club. That nobody like really collaborates, and it's weird. I hate it actually. 15 years of this, and I'm like, God, can't we just work together like for cycling, for the sport? You know, why
that's
your
too
club
bad.
is it? Yeah, you know, like your club is as important as my club, and we could do stuff together. And anyways, but so we've covered a lot. Is there any last things that you want to share with us about what's happening in your bike shop right now? If you want to share like I don't know, what do you have in sales on
Oh,
hybrids? No.
God.
Okay, we all know that you're looking for workers.
Right, right. If you're a mechanic, please
Oh
send me
my
an email.
gosh.
Um,
How many job postings have I seen about mechanics?
oh man,
But you're
there,
right. Like,
there
oh,
are
hey,
hundred. Like, there's such a
there,
need for a mechanic. There,
it,
there are stores that don't have any.
um, oh, here, hold on here. Something happened. Um, there's there's a bike program in like, is it Guelph or London?
Yeah, Guelph. Yeah, yeah.
What's it
Yeah.
called?
Um,
Do you know?
I
Do
don't
you
know why the
know?
name is escaping me.
It's like a
Water.
2-week program. Water something, no?
Yeah, it's affiliated with Conestoga College. You can get college credits for taking the course as well. It's a valuable course. Um, it's it's been decent as a feeder thing, but like I said, when we were first talking before we started recording, it's
Mm-hmm.
25 years ago you could learn how to be a bike
I
mechanic in a
know.
weekend. And it's just, even now to learn the basics of just how to fix your chain if it breaks, or how to replace a cable, or how to change a flat. Those things are basics that anybody can learn. We offer a little mini course on that called Park Tool School. That's great for commuters, or for new riders. Um, but to learn how to do the rest of it, with an e-bike, to learn how to do diagnostics
Oh.
on that, and learn how to
Mm-hmm.
fix a Bosch motor, or how to do an internal hub, or how to or adjust electronic shifting, or bleed a hydraulic brake, set up a tubeless tire. Like they're cars now. And so you're talking about, and with now 12 speed down to 6 speed, understanding not just what interfaces with what, but where to look to see what works with what. um, you can't just hire, and there's no real certification for it either. And that's anywhere in the world, whether you're in California where it's year-round cycling and 100 million population. You just don't, there's no certification anywhere for somebody. So somebody can say they're a mechanic, but that could mean anything from 1 to 100 in
Right.
terms of their ability. And so to have a mechanic that and trust their work it's weight in gold. And I'm saying that as a shop owner, but I would say that to any person as well, any bike rider out there. If get to know it's so hard now with everybody learning about how to buy things online. You can find things online, and online can be cheaper. They can ship it right to your door. It's all great. but you need to keep your local bike shop going, because they are the place where you'll find your mechanic who knows how to fix your bike and take
When
care
you
of your
can't put your
mechanics.
parts on, to bring it to your bike. I bought this online and I can't quite figure it out. You're like, bring it in.
And they're hard to find, but they're also, they're I find mechanics are like drummers or like relief pitchers in baseball or goalies in hockey. Like they are always a little bit kind of different from the rest of us. And so they're unique individuals, but you need to drum along with them, because they are worth their weight in gold. The mechanics that know what they're doing are so hard to find, and their work is so good that befriend them and take care of them, because once they're gone, they're impossible to replace.
Wow. Are they the highest paying in your shop? Highest paid?
They are. Yeah. It's I can train somebody how to sell a bike in a week. I can't train somebody how to build a wheel in a week. Oh, maybe a wheel, but I can't train somebody how to be a mechanic in a week. That takes years. And so they are, there are places in the US where you can be very, very well paid, not maybe lawyer level, but you can be very well paid. If you're a shop that's year round, that is, known for its mechanic, that mechanic will be very, very well compensated. So it's come a long way in 25 years.
Whoa, did everybody just hear that? If you want to become a bike mechanic, you start by taking the course and then getting yourself into a shop where you can learn, and then you can move and get paid. No, I'm just kidding. You become like a nurse, right? You could go anywhere and get paid. I mean, like
100%.
anywhere.
Yeah. Anywhere in the world will need you. Yeah.
Yeah. That's like the new, electrician, plumber. They're all looking for these trades.
Yeah.
It's like a trade.
Yeah.
I guess you could say.
Yeah. Go get your arts degree from university. I don't know. What's that going to do for you? Go to trade school and become an electrician or a plumber. You will do well. Very well.
And a mechanic.
Bike mechanic is up there. Yeah, absolutely.
You'll get paid well. Hey, I don't think anybody ever thought that a bike mechanic would get paid well. Now, get paid well.
Should have honed my skills.
Yeah, it's like I will spend all the time in the back of the shop, not in the front, taking care of everybody's bikes. Wow. Well, this has been enlightening. It's great to hear from you from a bike shop, and I hope our listeners have taken away. And if you're in the Toronto area, go check out one of Sweet Pete's bike shops. They are Toronto on Bloordale, the Annex, and the Trailhead location at 550 Bayview Avenue. So if you got one close to you, go in and say, I heard Pete on the podcast, and say hi, and check out their inventory. Buy a new helmet. I don't know if you have helmets. Everybody needs a new helmet.
For sure.
But with that, thanks everybody. And they can be found on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So follow Sweet Pete's Bike Shop there. Also follow the podcast. And we do now have a newsletter you can sign up for, so you'll never miss an episode. So with that, have an amazing day. Thank you so much, Pete, for joining us today. I loved it.
Thanks so much, Sylvie.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me on the Secrets from the Saddle podcast, learning more about sighting people, places, and things that make cycling such an exciting sport. I am so glad you stopped by today. Please leave me a review if you feel so moved to do so. I would love to hear your feedback. And if you could take 1 second to share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it, I would be forever grateful. Also, if you could please leave me a review if you feel so moved by going to iTunes and leaving me an honest thought and an honest comment, telling me what you think, and most importantly, tell me what you'd like to hear more of. It would really help me to bring more great, inspiring cycling stories to you. Until then, have an amazing day. Make sure you ride your bike. And don't forget to visit my YouTube channel if you'd like to see the full version of this podcast live.